mouth. That was probably not the best thing to do. A little bit more joy out of it before I really start. Good morning, everyone. We're going to give a second for everyone to get in. I've had an unfortunate day. A small problem with it. I was supposed to get fixed. And upon the problem getting fixed, a much larger problem occurred. So that was frustrating. Group response definitely could have handled it a lot worse. They definitely could have handled it better. So it is what it is. And hopefully it'll get figured out in the morning. I won't even worry about it. It's whatever. And either way, God's got it. I don't know. Or whatever else. God's got it. It's gonna be okay. But I thought it'd be a good night/morning to do a message, go through it. I think for especially morning prayer vibes, Psalms makes a lot of sense, and I don't usually do Psalms. Gospels. I don't know. It's not even necessarily true all the time. But they make good devotions. I don't know. It's really hard to just flip into the Old Testament. What's this? And it's going to help me go about my day. How many prostitutes and people died? Oh man, that is a tough one. Just doesn't always get me amped to nice peaceful mindset. But anyways, I hope everybody's in a nice peaceful Bible, and it's pretty close to the middle. So if you just open up to a random page, you're pretty good. All right, we found Psalms. So I'm gonna look up Psalms. Sarah has been talking about algorithms, and that's very cool. She did this week. She talked about algorithms and technology, and algorithms as a routine. Have to be a part of technology. She used an instance of just people in general having algorithms and stuff that we go by. Hers was I was getting ready to leave the church on Sunday night. I was walking away from the youth room, and I mentally processed that I just totally left the doors open, and I was like, yeah, Sarah and I have different mental protocols and different mental algorithms, but that's okay. I bet at least some of her 5 kids also have different mental algorithms. Maybe other people also leave the doors open sometimes. There's no to shut them, which is good and makes sense. Anyways, algorithms. Yeah, so a really great. The internet can be a great place to turn to when we want answers and when we want to help understand this, because about time, they usually have to do with invention, some new technology, some new process, whatever. Almost have to do with some form of and so a lot of sci-fi and science fiction predictive stuff about technology from like um, pictured things in a much more, which is like kind of early Star Trek era, I think, if my brain is working correctly. Yeah, it's like 60s. I don't know. Anyways. I think early Doctor Who, at least. Technology that's all around this idea of energy, and energy becoming really like abundant and powerful, or cheap, easy, whatever. And really the next like thing that happened in technology wasn't so much information becoming extremely cheap and available and easy to move via like the internet. So the internet is an amazing mass collection of information. And so it can be very for finding to help us understand the Bible, to help us understand and find resources for ourselves when we have something that's going on. If we look to, I just talked about being in the Old Testament and how I'm always not in it when I do morning devotions. If we look in the Gospels, there's things that they need or that they want in their lives, and they see Jesus as someone who can provide those things. They may not have other avenues, or they may not see other avenues that they could go to. I always remember there's, two brothers who are fighting between you two. That's a little bit off topic, but there's all these people shouting to Jesus and wanting things and wanting to understand, refocus or readjust or reevaluate, say, hey, like this isn't even the question you should be asking. This isn't a good starting place. And like absolutely do that. Ask Jesus. And I don't submissive way, like, yeah, go pray about it. Like like again, going to the Gospels, like Jesus says in the parable of there's so many parables with money that I forget which all of them. But when he hands the various servants different amount, when he comes back, one of them's just like buried it in the ground, and one of them's gone and invested it and made like 100% return, and the other one made an even, another 100% return. Greater principal amount, and to the guy who put it in the ground. Jesus, this feels weird, but God wants us to be able to use the things that are in our lives and in our disposal. If you're looking for something, is the internet. And another great place, arguably better, is if you have like a really nice study Bible or some commentary. If you can go either if there's an index that has topics, and so like for me, like it was a bit of a frustrating day, and so I want to something on anger. They might have something that says frustration in here, but I don't think so. My guess is that nothing. They have the word fable. That's a fun word. But I'm going to look for anger, and if I don't find anything in anger, oh, we missed it. This may not have anger in here. I don't think it does. Oh, this is more of a I ended up in the glossary. That's why anger is not in here. People know what anger is. Here's the index. I flipped too far. Anger. Woo! See also wrath. Yep. After like a ton of references from anger. So it's giving me page numbers. So 921, 932, 1255, 1336, 1753, and 2176. In the interest of Old Testament, let's go to 921. And see what happens. Let's drop us in Proverbs. I'm surprised that nothing turned up in Psalms. 921. This is Proverbs 20. Sure. This is a good spot. We're going to go through Proverbs 12. Index and find your topic that you want to learn more about. Or if there's a story that you want to learn more about, and you go to that, I'll read the commentary for Proverbs 12 at the bottom and see what we have to say. I see there's not really broken up sections. Start reading a little bit, and then I'm going to read the commentary on it. I preached to myself. I hope you guys aren't. Well, I mean, I was going to say I hope you guys aren't dealing with like anger and wrath and frustration today. But if you are, we acknowledge our emotions and we accept them, and we thank our body created us. And we handle that healthily by doing things like learning from the Bible. God. All right. Proverbs 12:1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but those who hate to be rebuked are stupid. This is the NRSV. The good obtain favor from the Lord, but those who devise evil he condemns. No one finds security I lost internet for a little bit. It says we're recording. I'm not sure exactly where we stopped. We're going to pick up at the top of Proverbs 12. All right. Thanks for your patience. I know this is all going to seem a little silly, but thank you very much. All right. Proverbs 12:1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but those who hate to be rebuked are stupid. Again, this is the NRSV. The good obtain favor from the Lord, but those who devise evil he condemns. No one finds security by wickedness, but the root of the righteous will never be moved. A good wife is the crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are just. The advice of the wicked is treacherous. The words of the wicked are a deadly ambush, but the speech of the upright delivers them. The wicked are overthrown, and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. One is condemned for good sense, but a perverse mind is despised. Better to be despised and have a servant than to be self-important and lack food. So that's through verse 9. Let's look at what the commentary has to say. All right, 12:1. The objects of affection matter. One form of which is reproof, root of righteousness. Verse 4, where it says good wife, a more literal translation is woman of substance. That's pretty interesting. Get me a woman of substance. It notes some comparable proverbs and says several proverbs encourage finding such a wife. See 14:1, 19:14, and 18:22. A crown, a symbol of dignity, also used elsewhere to describe wisdom and her benefits. Wisdom is usually personified as feminine. It talks about gray hair and grandchildren alongside crowns and symbols of dignity. Ooh. In verse 9, better to be despised and have a servant than to be self-important and lack food. Be despised is kala, which usually means to be of little account or lightly esteemed. One of many better than or relative proverbs, and it gives a whole long list and even references Ecclesiastes. Wow. Ecclesiastes, Exodus, Deuteronomy. Yeah, so that's another great thing. It's kind of like if you ever click on a Wikipedia link and you're looking at a Wikipedia article and then there's like another link to another Wikipedia article and you click on that and then there's like, and you just do that and then all of a sudden you're like, or if you keep clicking on different YouTube videos that show up in the recommended and it's like, man, I started watching like who's the group? It's like Bible in a Minute or something. Or the Bible Project. You start watching a Bible Project video and you click a similar video and then a similar video and then a similar video and all of a sudden it's like a snake bite compilation and you're like, how did I get here? But better, because it'll be like, oh, like here's a similar thing and you'll flip there and you might find, oh, here's another similar thing. And you can get a much broader perspective on a topic, and that can be really cool. And so those are all the notes for verses 1 through 9. So I'm going to keep reading at verse 10 in chapter 12. The righteous know the needs of their animals. I set up my shrimp tanks, so they're hopefully going to start breeding well. That's my sweet pepper plant growing out of the shrimp tank over yonder. That one's doing really well. I hung it from the ceiling. I'm proud of that one. I'm righteous. Because the righteous know the needs of their animals. Anyways, but the mercy of the wicked is cruel. Those who till their land will have plenty of food, but those who follow worthless pursuits have no sense. The wicked covet the proceeds of wickedness, but the root of the righteous bears fruit. The evil are ensnared by the transgression of their lips, but the righteous escape from trouble. From the fruit of the mouth one is filled with good things, and manual labor has its reward. Fools think their own way is right, but the wise listen to advice. Fools show their anger once, but the prudent ignore an insult. Whoever speaks the truth gives honest evidence, but a false witness speaks deceitfully. All right, that's 10 through 17. So let's look here at the footnotes. 12 just points out root of righteousness and makes a points out where it appears elsewhere in Proverbs. For verse 14, which was from the fruit of the mouth one is filled with good things. It says words and thoughts were thought to be stored in the belly, hence descriptions of speech as fruit or food. This is actually really interesting because Sarah talked previously this Sunday about how we might think of like the center of control or like the center of how we think and process stuff as our brains, and the Greeks thought about it as their heart. And so if you go back even further, then people thought about it as their stomach. The stomach is the seat of emotions in like figurative language rather than your heart or even your head. And you know, we can find some examples of this, but we can guess at why people would feel this way, as you know, like maybe if you're anxious, you have gastrointestinal distress, or you know, especially like a really big one in our modern language is like butterflies in your stomach when you like talk to someone you like or something like that. So the ancients saw the stomach as the seat of emotions, and my one of my religious studies professors would always use a King James translation of a passage where he's asking, I think it's a king asking one of his advisors to like kind of refresh his spirit and like help him understand things in a new way. But the words that the King James uses is like renew my bowels, which is a really odd thing for someone to say and like this like emotional, you know, heartfelt moment is like renew my bowels. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, so that's really good context to know like there's even more weight when Jesus talks about, again, Jesus comes a lot in Christianity, and I need to just accept that. When Jesus talks about like, you know, good things going into the mouth or coming out of it, like if you process the stomach as your seat of emotion, as like this decision-making area almost as your range of processing, then metaphorical food is very important. And even, you know, when Jesus talks about not living on bread alone, like that's very interesting. Looking at the stomach as like a seat of emotions. Anyways, that's a whole tangent. But those are the great tangents that you can go on and see. I'm not even thinking about how angry I am. It's a joke. Hopefully there'll be a comment on, yes, the very next one. Verse 16, many proverbs urge self-restraint and patience, particularly with regard to anger. So a great one to look up after a frustrating day. But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, and the next verse is going to get into it a little bit. Fools think their own way is right, but the wise listen to advice. Fools show their anger at once, but the prudent ignore an insult. I think especially like today when the company came to fix the one issue. The technician that they had out, like, she seemed very proficient and capable, and she was doing all she could, and at the very least, once the problem happened, it was something that was beyond her capacity, and she tried very well to work and handle it. And I have spent a lot of the past few days on the phone with various insurances or the police or whatever, and um, it's very easy to get frustrated in those times. And I would like to believe that I do at least an okay job of being patient and prudent with frustration or anger that I feel, because my car problems are not the customer service lady's fault. They're just not. And even if she doesn't deal well with me or anyone else, God still calls us to be kind and loving in all things. If Jesus can love the people that are nailing him to the cross, then I can love the insurance company that's trying to not pay me money. The insurance company was actually really good in this instance. I know I keep getting off on other stuff, but this other company, it's making me sad beans. All right, let's get back into this. So it's 16. Let's see if there's a note for 17. Ooh, honest evidence. False witness, one of the many proverbs that urge telling the truth in everyday and legal settings. Very neat. All right, back in it. Chapter 12, verse 18. Rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. Deceit is in the mind of those who plan evil, not those who counsel peace. Oh, but those who counsel peace have joy. No harm happens to the righteous, but the wicked are filled with trouble. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are in his delight. One who is clever conceals knowledge, but the mind of a fool broadcasts folly. The hand of the diligent will rule, while the lazy will be put to forced labor. Anxiety weighs down the human heart, but a good word cheers it up. The righteous give good advice to friends, but the way of the wicked leads astray. The lazy do not roast their game, but the diligent obtain precious wealth. That sentence doesn't make any sense to me. Hopefully we get some context in the commentary. In the path of righteous there is life. In walking its path there is no death. Grand. So there's definitely a lot to unpack in that last third. Before I even go to the commentary, there are some pretty bold claims in here. No harm happens to the righteous. In the path of righteousness, there is life. In walking its path, there is no death. We know that that's not true. We can see that in the life of Jesus. That's those statements being untrue, of being false, and in this case, hyperbole, of being figurative, are at the crux of our faith. The idea that Jesus was righteous, and both that he died and that there was harm there. No harm happens to the righteous. And so when we read, it's very important to know what we're reading. And, Proverbs is, Proverbs. It's poetic wisdom. And so figurative language is very common. And it's used to show importance not to show literal truth. And so, it says no harm happens to the righteous, but we can see all around us that harm happens to the righteous, and we can see in, this time period as well. It's not like something was different. We can know that this is either a hyperbole or an allusion to something more specific, like perhaps like an emotional weight of guilt that may have been more commonly referenced at this time. And so that's something that I think is important to bring up and talk about. And I'm glad that Sarah always points out, some of these things when they come up. Because especially, I deal with youth and they're at that age where, they might feel inspired and pick up a Bible and go, no harm happens to the righteous. Man, why are mom and dad fighting? Like, why do I feel like crap? Why is all this stuff happening around the world? Why is it happening to me? Am I not righteous? Is it because I sin if I tell the truth at this and go and give extra money to my little sibling at that? Is that going to make all these other problems go away? And that's not how we understand like modern faith and Christianity, but it's easy to think that for both young minds and also people who have been raised in the church and even raised in the Word, but not spent a lot of time digging into it themselves. So I just always like to make that point. But all right, let's see what we've got. So we started with verse 18. Let's see what the commentary has. It talks about speech as a weapon, because those are talking about rash words like sword thrusts, and points out sorry, I'm tired. Other places in Proverbs where it talks about speech as a weapon. So we can see that this is a consistent theme. This is a consistent metaphor. It's something that the author, who is believed to be Solomon, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Is like, it feels strongly about. And that's very important. If we believe Solomon to be the author, this massive king, Lord of the nations, someone who is no stranger to military might, the fact that he places such an importance on words shows his wisdom, and that is certainly translatable to today. 22, abomination to the Lord. And this also brings up other references, or more specifically, one other reference. And this is talking about lying lips. I know abomination is a word that's thrown around in Christianity sometimes, and almost never in a helpful manner. And I think it comes from translations like this. And I wish this pointed out exactly what the Hebrew word is. I think sometimes it's the same and sometimes it's not. But lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. But those who act faithfully are his delight. That's another one. Like, who of us hasn't lied, right? Does that make us abominations to the Lord? Arguably, yes, but there's grace, and grace moves in. And that's beautiful. Oh, I flipped the page when I shouldn't have. I was excited. All right. 24, talking about diligence and laziness. It references earlier in Proverbs. I love this. 25, anxiety and the need for good cheer. It references 3 other places in Proverbs. And that's anxiety weighs down the human heart, but a good word cheers it up. I love that. And we see references to the heart. What is this? 18. Or no. 25. Where's 25? Yeah. Weighs down the human heart. Okay. Cool. And we there were a couple other pins in here. The righteous gives good advice to friends. It looks like the Hebrew meaning of friends is uncertain, and they just use that word to sub in there. The lazy do not roast their game, but the diligent obtain precious wealth. I stopped after that and said, well, that doesn't make much sense to me. And unfortunately, it doesn't make much sense to the translators either, as they are not sure what roast or wealth mean in that sentence, which are pretty important words for it. And so that's something that, we make our best guess and maybe don't throw a bunch of weight behind it, our interpretations of it. Grand. Ooh. So that's something that's really cool. So I was going to go to the internet and use our search algorithms, but I used our index instead, and that's brought us to 35 minutes with our interruption. So I think I will stop there. But I feel, I feel a little encouraged, and I feel a little bit convicted. And if you feel a little bit of both of those things, that's probably a good place to be after finding, looking up a topic in the Bible and reading a little bit. So thanks for doing this with me. Thanks for going on this little journey. And so I looked up anger, which again, I enjoy specific words, and I use a word like frustration. Not that I don't get angry. I probably was angry earlier today a little bit, but I don't really feel too angry anymore. But frustrated would be a more adequate term. And so that's what I looked up in my index. I know we're 36 minutes in, but as you think about, maybe what's already happened today or what's going to happen today, and you take a deep breath and check in with yourself. What word are you looking up in your index? Whether that means going to a Google search and typing anxiety Bible verses, or, if you're thinking about a story like Joseph and the Dreamcoat Genesis, right? Just like what are you looking up in your index today? And maybe if you feel overwhelmed or confused at another point today, and you have some time, if you have the flexibility, stop and look. The Bible's got a lot of really good wisdom in it. There are a lot of reasons why the Bible has stayed around in this form for like 2 millennia. Ooh, pardon me. I'm so tired. All right. I love you guys. Thanks for bearing with me on this one. It was a little chaotic. They're always a little chaotic. This one I think was a little worse. I love you, Hickory.